Well, it's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is news that you can use from CarEdge for Monday, October 16th, with your host, me, Ray, and that good looking guy in the fancy t shirt, Zach. How are you today, Zach?
I'm doing great, Pops. Happy Monday. Let's kick things off, Dad. The latest data on the auto loan crisis continues to worsen, man. Every single week we look at data and information like this, and it still strikes me each time as being pretty freaking crazy. We have, Dad, auto loan performance updates from Cox Automotive. The first thing I want to focus on here, Dad, auto loan performance was mixed in September as delinquencies increased, but defaults declined. So let's kick things off with this, folks. Auto loan delinquencies are when you stop paying a car loan. Auto loan defaults are when the bank has pretty much given up on you ever paying your car loan. That's my understanding of the distinction between delinquencies and defaults. So banks likely, as we start to get into the data here, are extending some grace to people to try and help them figure out a way to pay for their auto loans. But what you want to look at here, Dad, is this. The loans delinquent for 60 days or more increased for the fifth month in a row, and we're up 13.3% from a year ago in September. 1.89% of auto loans were severely delinquent. That was up from August 1.85% rate, was the highest September rate dating back to at least 2006. 7.38% of subprime loans were severely delinquent. That was an increase from last month, where 7.17% were. And it is the highest since 2006.
What are you trying to suggest there, handsome?
I'm trying to suggest that evidently people have stopped paying their auto loans at the highest rates we've ever seen. Yet default rates, so banks are saying that they've given up on the loan, that is not mapped in the same way to delinquency. So banks are likely trying to find ways to keep people current, even though they're not paying. Like, the numbers might actually not be as bad as the banks are reporting is what's going through. Okay, go for it.
No, it is the fact that there are not enough repossessors out there. Okay. So yes, you have more people that are delinquent, and the reason they haven't gone to default status yet is because there are so many people whose vehicles need to be repossessed, and not enough people who actually do the repossessing. So once they can catch up, those numbers are truly going to spike. It's not because banks are trying to be generous and to work with their customers who have already shown a proclivity to not want to pay.
Proclivity, I like that.
Yeah, it is merely the fact that the banks can't hire enough people to actually go out and repossess the vehicles. That's the issue. And once they do, if they ever do, then those numbers are going to be even worse than what you suspect.
We have seen articles throughout the year of different finance companies offering truly like mind-boggling incentives to go repossess vehicles, like $500 per car incentives, which seems like an awful lot of money on a per vehicle basis to pay just to get something repossessed.
Extra, not.
Oh yeah, that's the bonus.
It's a $500 bonus above and beyond what the normal repossession fee is that they're being charged. And the reason the banks are willing to pay that $500 is because they want to get to the top of the line, so that they can get their vehicles back sooner rather than later.
So they can get their collateral and turn around and sell it and try and recoup some of their loss. Dad, the subprime delinquency rate is just mind-boggling, man. So again, all auto loans, 1.89% of them are severely delinquent.
Yes.
But for subprime, Dad, 7.38%. That's 4 times as delinquent for those that have subprime credit.
Oh, but they knew that going in. I mean, the lenders knew that going in. There's a reason these are subprime borrowers. And my suspicion, and this is merely a suspicion, is that these lenders have jacked up the interest rates enough so that the 92% of subprime borrowers that are paying on time, the amount of interest they're collecting on those loans far outweighs the loss of interest that they're not collecting on the 7.38%. Just a
There,
guess.
a little bit of that, because we also see earnings from CarMax, for example. We didn't really talk about CarMax's earnings on this channel too much because they were pretty boring. Like, their business is slowing down. Their auto loan delinquencies are also going up. Their loan loss provision. It's like all kind of the same story. But that's a good example, Dad, of, they knew, they obviously, the interest rate is a reflection of how likely you are to actually come full term on a loan. But we are seeing loan loss provisions at CarMax, at Credit Acceptance Corporation, at
Sure.
Santander, at Ally, all of them increasing their loan loss provisions, which is an indication that it actually might be that 7.38% is too high. They had expected, or their modeling had said maybe it gets to 6%, 6.5%, not 7.38%. And again, this is the highest Cox Automotive has ever seen. Their data goes back to 2006. That's pre-Great Recession. This is not hyperbolic to say it is an auto loan crisis and a credit crunch that is looming. We have never seen delinquency levels quite like we are right now. And it is impacting, as you've always said, those who can afford to spend the least or get taken advantage of the least are those that are getting taken advantage of, or in the worse off economic position right now. They already have poor credit, perceived to have poor credit, and now they're falling behind on auto loans. They're going delinquent. I guess the silver lining here is because the banks can't get enough repo men and women out there, they can keep driving that thing for another couple of weeks before it comes, before the repo man shows up. Like, maybe that's the silver lining here.
I don't know that there's a silver lining. I understand and appreciate that there's a looming crisis, that if the perfect storm exists, that we can see more repossessions in the near term than what anybody had the right to expect. But I also understand that there's enough profit in most of these situations to offset these losses. Yeah, would Credit Acceptance Corporation prefer to only have 6% non-performing loans on their subprime books? Yeah, I'm sure they would. Have they set aside enough money so that it's 7.38% or 7.5%, that they can get by? My guess is they probably have. This is not the first time that we have seen higher interest rates. Might be in your lifetime, certainly not in mine. Certainly not the first time we have been hit with inflation. We have survived this in the past. The industry has, and banks have, and my suspicion is that they will in the future. But it is, those data points are interesting and oftentimes point us to a slightly bigger problem than what we thought existed. Because if it's this way with auto loans at the moment, and the delinquency rates are higher, just a suspicion, if we look at, say, credit card debt, that the amount of people that are falling behind on their credit card payments is probably higher than what it's been in quite some time.
Highest ever, though. I think that's where auto is fairly unique right now,
Well,
Dad.
it's hard to say highest. It's hard to say highest ever. All we're saying is it's the highest ever since Cox started keeping track of it, 17 years ago. I guarantee you, in the 80s, when normal interest rates for cars and mortgages were 16, 17, 18%, my guess is more people were going delinquent then than now. So it's just, it's we lived with interest rates at historically low levels for a decade. That as these interest rates return to more normalized levels, people don't quite know how to handle it. Of course, we've seen a tremendous amount of inflation, and so when you combine these higher interest rates with the inflation, it makes it harder and harder for people to be able to afford things. So So that's my take. Once again, more than likely, I'm wrong.
Let me show you a few other data points, and then we'll switch gears to another topic.
Okay.
The subprime severe delinquency rate was 72 basis points. The cool kids call those BIPs, so
Yeah.
nearly 1%, 0.72%, higher than a year ago, while the aggregate was only 16 BIPs higher. So again, there's that 4 times higher velocity and delinquency for subprime versus all auto loans. Again, the storyline being the haves and have-nots. The have-nots are being more impacted than the haves. Hate to frame it that way, but that's what the data is showing. The delinquency rate has been high all year, but has not been leading to similarly high level of defaults, and defaults declined in September after increasing in August. Defaults of auto loans declined by 9.8% in total in September from August, but were up 31.7% from a year ago. Defaults on subprime auto loans declined by 11%, but were up 18% from a year ago. This is where I get a little confused, because I guess you're right, Dad. You must be right. Defaults, just to be very clear, defaults, my understanding, and someone correct me in the comments, the chat, or you can email me, Zach@CarEdge.com after the show. My understanding is that delinquency is when I stop paying my auto loan. My understanding is that
fall behind.
when you
That's
fall
when you
behind.
fall
Yep.
behind.
Fall behind.
Yes.
Default is when the bank says we're throwing in the towel here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to get any payments from this person.
We've
what the
seen
data
enough.
is, yeah, we've seen enough. Yeah. So what the data is saying is that delinquency, people who have stopped paying their auto loans, fallen behind on their auto loans, is up significantly, which I guess would be a leading indicator for defaults. However, the data is showing us that defaults have actually gone down month over month, but are up 33% year over year. So they're still up. Maybe there's a little bit of what you were talking about, not enough repossessors out there to be able to pick up those vehicles, which is a really strange dynamic in the market. Again, like maybe everyone who thinks they're going to get repoed has an extra 2 or 3 weeks here because there's just such a backlog in actually repossessing all the vehicles. Wild to say that sentence out loud.
It could be an extra month or two. Repossession companies are inundated with requests to go out and repossess vehicles. You can only repossess X number in a day. And if the requests are 4 and 5 times what you can do in a day, and every day it's it exacerbates the situation, so it's going to take longer to catch up. I think eventually the defaults will catch up and they will spike as either more people realize this could be a business to go into, although it's not the safest business in the world. This could be a business to go into, or some of these repossession companies can hire more drivers to do what needs to be done. It's don't worry, the people that are severely delinquent, whose vehicles haven't been repossessed yet, they will be. Okay, it's not, and right now it's not anywhere near a question of the banks are trying to work with these people. It's the banks don't have enough people to go out and repossess and pick up the vehicles. But they'll work through it, and those vehicles will all end up repossessed. The ones that are supposed to be repossessed will end up repossessed.
Few final thoughts on this topic, and then we will switch gears. We've got here, Dad, from Mark saying, are there any financial people you can bring on to show from these or other organizations to talk about this? And Igor saying, my buddy who owns a recovery business has now stopped repoing planes and boats and can barely keep up on repoing cars. I'm going to do a quick forward promote. Yeah. My dad has a brand new podcast, just my dad. It's called Auto Insiders with Ray Shefska. It'll be out in a couple of weeks here, in about 2 weeks. On that show, we should absolutely get someone who owns a repo agency, like without a doubt. We should also obviously get someone from like Experian or one of these big credit bureaus, and you should interview them about what they're seeing and what they're experiencing in the market. That is the whole purpose of the show, Auto Insiders, with my dad, Ray Shefska, is to get experts in the field, and you guys have a conversation about what's going on and share stories and things like that. I'm just planting a seed. We need to get a repo agency owner on with you sooner rather than later.
I will mention that to my dear compatriot Justice, who is helping me piece all this together.
I'm proud of you, man. You're running a show by yourself with Justice. You and Justice are a dynamic duo. It makes me so happy. I
Uh,
absolutely love seeing
yeah,
that.
it's Justice Double D and Ray Double D, the dynamic duo. Yes,
What does double D stand for? All right, Dad,
dynamic
let's switch
duo.
gears. Dynamic duo. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears. We've got some pretty ominous news coming out from Ford, and it took a lot of self-restraint to not lead with this morning. I talk a lot about Ford, so looking for a little bit of kudos in the chat here because we could have gone with Ford crisis. Before we turn our attention there, though, the banner at the bottom of the screen, caredge.com/careers. We are hiring for 5 different positions right now. So if you want to join our team, please go check that out, caredge.com/careers. If you know anyone who's really talented and might want to join our team, check that out. The Ford story, Dad. Ford
Yes.
has intentionally idled their Michigan plant that builds the F-150 Lightning. Ford, citing multiple constraints such as supply chain issues, will temporarily cut one of 3 shifts at a factory that builds the F-150 Lightning pickup, and added the move is unrelated to the UAW strike. We have over on Jalopnik, Dad, the headline there reading, Ford F-150 Lightning sales have, quote, tanked, says a memo. Plus, strikes could cost Ford and GM more than $500 million, and another 1,250 workers are furloughed as the industrial action continues. What did you make of this F-150 Lightning news, Dad? Intentionally stopping production of their supposedly super popular electric pickup.
The world's most popular electric pickup. You know, the one that had 200,000 orders, like 10 minutes after they made the order bank available. What I make of it is there's a lot of hype, and the hype doesn't match the reality. And the reality is yes, that might be this country's best-selling electric pickup truck, but that doesn't mean just because it's the best selling that it's selling in large enough quantities that Ford wants to keep producing as many of them as they can. So yes, we're using the supply constraints as an excuse to cut back on production, as opposed to, I don't know, perhaps telling the truth, which is the stuff's not selling. Okay. So yeah, that what I make of it is everybody ballyhooed the transition to EV, and every time a major player said we're coming out with this or we're coming out with that, and the next thing you know, there were like 34 million orders for each one of these things, you know, but there were only 3,400 buyers. You know, that's the reality of the situation. They hyped all this stuff up, and the stuff's not living up to the hype. So what do you do when that happens? You cut back production and you move it to your gas powered vehicles, which is, I'm sure, what we're going to see. And they'll produce more of the ICE trucks than they will the EVs, which in
Let's
today's
look
world.
at
And I was going to say, and they can actually make money doing that. So
yeah, exactly. So small insight here. So this was a UAW memo that was shared
yes,
by the Wall Street Journal, reveals that Ford could cut a shift at the plant. So they've already made that decision that builds the F-150, the all electric F-150, as, quote, sales for the Lightning have tanked. The memo was shared by a UAW official in response to Ford's announcement that it would cut a shift from its Lightning facility, affecting 700 jobs on the site. Again, supposedly unrelated to the UAW strike. And it is theoretically unrelated to the UAW strike because the workers aren't leaving. It's Ford saying, hey, we're turning off the plant. A Ford spokeswoman declined to comment on the possibility of eliminating a shift at the facility on a longer-term basis, and said there were some shorter-term schedule changes as it works through supply chain disruptions and quality checks. I believe the quality checks one. I believe that one. I don't believe the supply chain one.
yeah.
The company plans to temporarily cut one shift due to these constraints. The spokeswoman said the shift change takes effect on Monday and affects about 700 jobs. It isn't related to the UAW strike. So again, the UAW leaking a memo saying that this is actually just because F-150 Lightning sales have tanked. Ford saying no, it's because of quality control and supply chain issues. Really took a lot of self-restraint to not lead with that today, Dad.
Yeah,
Really
and the quality control issues might be the factor that as to why the sales have tanked. And I know everybody gets on me because they go, well, Ray, all you ever do is bash. All you ever do is bash Ford. Yeah, I guess because it's so easy. And then everybody says, and then Ray doesn't like Tesla. He's always bashing Tesla. Yeah, I guess because it's so easy. Because I drove one, and I saw the quality of it, and I've said it before. I will say it again. I was thoroughly, thoroughly impressed with the technology and with the software. I was I was amazed at that aspect of it. I was thoroughly unimpressed at the quality and the ride and the noise and the rattles um, from such a vehicle. And it's probably more than likely the best EV in the marketplace today, more than likely. So there, I've said it. I'm not always bashing Tesla.
We're going to do a quick experiment here to look at days supply of Ford F-150 Lightnings. We'll do that in just a moment. I do want to mention, we haven't talked about on the show in a little bit, CarEdge.com/Ford.
Yes.
So while we do talk a lot about this brand with regards to some of the challenges they face, we actually have a trusted dealer in the CarEdge network. So if you're interested, if you're in the market to buy one of these F-150 Lightnings, Super Duty, whatever the heck it is, an Edge, an Escape, whatever it is,
yeah.
We have a dealer that we've partnered with. We do all the negotiating for you in terms of making sure that the prices are fair. We get the car delivered to your door. No add-on fees, no BS. Like, if you're going to buy a Ford, please go to caredge.com/Ford and go ahead and find a vehicle you're interested in, or just call us. Go to our website and just give us a call. Tell us you're interested in buying a Ford. We have a dealer partner there to be able to assist with that. That being said, Dad.
Yes.
Here we are. We're in Orlando, Florida. 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum. Top trim level. It is a $92,990 truck. What do you think the day's supply in Orlando, Florida?
For those, I'm going to guess about 380.
That is a very good guess. 298 days supply of F-150 Lightnings down in Orlando. I get a lot of crap for always picking on Miami. So there you go. In Orlando, there are 86 of these within 100 miles of Orlando for sale. Only 13 have sold in the last 45 days. Let's try another locale, Dad. We were in Orlando.
If that were me and I was running a Ford plant, I'd be idling a shift too.
All right, Pops, we're here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Let's find one of the Platinums. Yeah, just a really great $92,000. Holy cow, our fair price is over this. So this dealer is actually like aggressively discounting from current MSRP. That's what that discrepancy indicates. Oh, whoa, 338 days supply in Scottsdale, Arizona. Give me one more locale, Pops, and we'll run it.
You know the interesting thing about Scottsdale, Arizona?
Go for it.
And so you're doing it probably within 100-mile radius?
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, I know I'm not mistaken. That would include Phoenix. That would include the whole Phoenix metro area, which is the 4th or 5th largest metro area in the country.
Yep.
Okay. Which shows, and there's, having lived there, there's a lot of damn trucks out there. There's if you can't sell those vehicles in that market, you have either built the wrong trim level or you have priced them way too high, or in this case, it could be a combination of the two. But that's an area where trucks are popular, and yet they can't sell them. They can't sell those trucks. And if I may, the Phoenix metro area, because of their dearth of real public transportation out there, is one of the best automotive markets in the country. And typically, some of the largest dealers in the country are in the Phoenix metro area. One of the largest Chevy dealerships was in the Phoenix metro. One of the largest Ford dealerships was in the Phoenix metro area. If you can't be selling this stuff there, you can't be selling this stuff anywhere.
You're really right. Another good example would be like Las Vegas. We should look there in just a moment. We had one of our community members ask about Southern Texas. This is McAllen, Texas. I haven't looked yet. 176 days supply down in McAllen, Texas. Full-size pickup truck country down there. Let's run another one. Someone said Boise, Idaho. That's going to be
that would be truck country, I would think.
83701. Let me try this. 83701. Again, we're looking at the platinum, so we're looking at the most expensive ones here. Let me find a platinum.
Or maybe there's no platinums in Boise. Maybe they can sell trucks in Boise because there's no platinums.
No, all it took was going to page 2, Pops. I like this beige platinum.
Yeah.
And let's see here, 225 days supply. Yeah, Ford's got an issue, man.
Yeah.
And again,
but did you go back to that? Go back to that screen for 1 second. Yeah. Okay. There was only 5 available for sale. Okay. And there's only one that has sold in the last 45 days. There's a market where there's not a lot of them. And yet it's like a boat anchor if you're one of those Ford dealers that actually has one of those 5. The likelihood of finding a buyer, the likelihood of finding that buyer is pretty remote.
Pretty remote. There's no chance, man. There's no chance. There's absolutely no chance. Also, I must confess, I put the wrong link earlier. It's caredge.com/buy/Ford. caredge.com/Ford takes you to our cost of ownership to own a Ford vehicle, which is very good data. And everyone should go ahead and look at both of those. But again, we have a dealer partner. It is caredge.com/buy/Ford. Do not overpay for a new Ford. If you are in the market, you're going to buy one. Do not overpay. Let us do it for you. caredge.com/buy/Ford. Go for it.
So apparently we're the great slashers in America. The more you slash, the more you save. So there you have it, folks.
Hey, man, we convinced the car dealer group that if they partnered with us, we can help them sell more cars at fair prices, and it wouldn't cost them as much to do it because they don't have to pay for a lead from car gurus. Right? It's like, again,
yes.
caredge.com/Ford. /buy/Ford from Taker 610. Appreciate the contribution. Trouble for Ford is they didn't build an EV that was better than what they were already selling. The Lightning is less convenient to own. I think that's a super fair point. There was a lot. They were got to give Ford credit. Farley has been fast to move. He was fast to move at getting that F-150 Lightning. It's been out way in advance of a comparable Ram electric pickup truck and a comparable Chevy electric pickup truck. So kudos to them for doing that. Now they're sitting, and that's an issue.
Well, and I agree with them. If it's not as practical as the gas or diesel powered ones, why would you buy it? Just so you can say, I got one of the first ones. I'm not in on that. Not me. I'll wait till they're perfected.
Mark saying I'm looking for a used F-150. I should mention the dealer group that we're working with, new and used. All right. So forgive me. It's new and used. They've got all the certified ones. So again, we do a lot on this channel talking about Ford for various reasons, but we can actually help you out. So go ahead and give us a call or head to the website. Let's just call it a show for today, Pops, with those 2 topics. We really, I think, did a good job today staying focused on 2 really big stories. The auto loan delinquency crisis, the haves and have-nots, the latest data just paints a really scary portrait of what's going on and what will continue to go on. And what's happening at Ford, we didn't even talk about the UAW component of this. They're in trouble. I know I say it every show, but every single week we build a stronger and stronger case for why Ford's business is not nearly as strong as their competitors. And the latest data here demonstrating live, we didn't premeditate any of this. We just lit it live, just shows that their bet on the future that costs them $33,000 every time they sell one of these. They don't make 33 grand every time they sell it. They lose 33 grand. They can't even sell them. Really, really, really interesting dynamics in the market right now. And I'm proud of us because we stayed on topic.
Are you saying, gee, Dad, thanks for not veering off somewhere?
I'm just saying it felt good. I wasn't here all last week, so I come back, felt very
Yes.
natural. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. No, we did a good job of staying on task today. For those of you who prefer when the poop hits the fan, tune back in tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 8 a.m. in Anchorage or 6 a.m. in Honolulu, because the likelihood of us going off the rails has increased dramatically since we stayed on the rails today.
Again, Auto Insiders, a podcast specifically with my dad and insiders in the field, coming soon. So stay tuned. We'll be doing an announcement for that within the next couple of weeks. If we can help you on the Ford side, obviously check out the website. For everything else, CarEdge.com. Otherwise, we'll be back when, Pops?
I think tomorrow at noon Eastern.
9 Pacific. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, handsome. Talk to you later.